Hi, welcome. Thank you guys for being here today. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, I'll hand it over to you and pop back in at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, MK, how are you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you. I was worried about my internet was like in and out. It's starting to thunderstorm here, so just
Uh-oh. Yeah,
something
we
goes awry. I don't know if that has anything to do with Wi-Fi, but for some reason I make that connection.
I know I had the same problems, and we had a lot of rain this morning. Now, hopefully, it's clearing back up. So good. So first, I want to thank Brain Innovators for allowing me to host this session, and it's great to see MK again. MK's works at Danone. I'd love to hear more about your role before we get into the overall topics during the session.
Yeah. So I am Director of Media Connections at Danone, and our goal is really to drive media excellence across our organization. We are in charge of media strategy, media planning and buying, working with the agency and our brand marketers to really drive growth for our brands through media excellence. So I work across, mainly the brands in Colorado, which are all of our plant-based brands, Silk and So Delicious, Horizon Organics, as well as our beverages division, which includes International Delight, coffee creamers, as well as Evian, Stoke, and then of course we have our yogurt business unit as well. So we try to look at things from an enterprise strategy to then drive that down to our brand plans.
Awesome. Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and the marketplace is definitely changing. It's evolving rapidly. I think we've seen a lot of forums and panels outside of this one that is talking about a very unique upfront marketplace. And with that, how does Danone implement its video strategy for brand growth?
Yeah, I know it's, and I should have mentioned before too, it's like video has been one of the things that I've been focused on as one of my areas over the past 3 years since I've been at Danone. And before that, I was agency side. But I laugh that it used to be a lot easier. When I first started in this business, it was, I had my TV plan and that was it. And it was like, check the box, move on. But, now it's so much more complex because the consumer is viewing multiple screens and multiple ways in. So we see video as a key channel within our media mix. It is a great reach driver for us in terms of driving not only base reach for our plans that we need to hit in order to drive our brand growth and see those results at the shelf, and within our brand sentiment and brand awareness. And so we are continuing to try to innovate within video. So with that just meaning, yes, we have linear TV benchmarks that we want and do meet, but that's becoming more challenging, obviously, with how the marketplace is heading, ratings erosions, things of that nature. Obviously, many more touch points and ways in to view video, time shifting, of course, it started with, and then streaming, et cetera, and trying to reach a broader, more, I guess, diverse audience, I say, in terms of, yes, I have my demo linear audience, but then I know so much more about my audience in these other channels. So how do I continue to reach them? So I'd say it's a long-winded answer. For our ambition is to look at video holistically so that we can really understand and continue to follow the consumer, understand what's resonating with them most and how it's going to continue to drive our business. And by holistic, I mean, linear plus FEP plus programmatic guarantee plus programmatic, et cetera.
Yeah, there's a lot to juggle for sure. A lot to juggle these days, and we'll get to this later on. One of my questions I had for you, because you've referenced a holistic video approach, and I think measurement definitely plays a critical role when you're looking at video holistically. So that definitely is a challenge. But thinking about challenges, I referenced at the beginning, the 21-22 broadcast upfront year, like what challenges do you as a brand or as an organization face, I guess, along with your agency?
Yeah, I mean, a key challenge for us, of course, is following the consumer first and foremost. I think also another one that we're faced with, just based off of business and how things have changed over the past year, is the need for flexibility and the need for us to kind of pull things in and out and shift around. And that becomes really hard with obviously linear TV and upfront deals. But we want to be able to come into the marketplace with the best pricing, hit our goals, and continue to innovate. So those are like two of our key challenges. And we want to also, because of the shifting consumer behavior, the challenge is to figure out how to be in the mix of that, in the forefront, reaching our most valuable consumer, I guess, wherever they're watching. And that becomes complex because of, I think, how TV is traded, right? Based off, when you look at linear versus, other type of, I'd say, digital video from a programmatic standpoint or streaming, it's all different. So how do I go to market and tick all of those boxes and understand, how many times I'm reaching a consumer? how do I know I'm not bombarding them versus, within linear, you can kind of have a better gauge of how many times you're reaching them. But then if I have that plus everything else in that whole ecosystem, how do I measure it, like you were talking about earlier, and translate that to success and growth for our brands? So those are some of the key ones that are really top of mind for us. And then I'd say too, with ratings erosions and pricing increasing, that never, that whole concept is always hard for me. But that's one thing too that you have to think about for the future, to make sure we're buying the best media for our brands and can really, look at that, monitor it, see where it's going. And I think obviously we're seeing in the marketplace some different approaches, and I am curious as to how that's going to, shake out in the future and what that means for, different guarantees or different things that we have going on in the marketplace.
Yeah, guarantees is interesting. I was listening last week to an interesting panel. John Musinski, Gibbs Halligan, and company, and they were commenting on guarantees from the linear marketplace on adults 18 plus. It's almost like we're taking a couple steps backwards when you're talking about reaching someone, within a strategic lens, and that's what we're focusing on now too, is data. Whether it's our first party data or third party data, the guarantee scenario in a linear marketplace is becoming interesting in the way that it's taking a couple steps back, maybe even decades back.
Yeah.
From that matter. So
yeah,
it's interesting for sure.
It is. It's very, like I said at the beginning, to me, it's complex, and I think there's a lot of moving pieces. And I don't know, the other piece that I think about, and we're relying on our agency partners as well as ourselves to push ourselves and to push the publishers and other video providers, that I don't know have it figured out, honestly, in terms of that holistic package and how they're going to sell it and what it means for the historical way that you've been able to buy TV. So I think it'll continue to evolve. So that part is exciting. I just, I wish somebody would tell me how to do it all.
No. So diving a little deeper now, we talked holistically, but diving deeper into the different lanes of media, how do you toggle, or what tactics are you using when you're using linear TV versus FEPs versus digital video, programmatic? The list goes kind of on and on today of short tail to long tail media opportunities. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So over the years, of course, we've increased, I'd say, our FEP, and to, I'd say, 5 to 10 to 15% each year, based off of which, we'd all talk about and know, which is following where the consumer's viewing video, and with what's happening with ratings, et cetera. So we continue to do that. I mean, linear is still a large piece of where we invest. We have optimized our day part mix based off of our brands and our goals and what's, happening each year, to be, focused in the most important inventory, and I'd say more premium inventory for our brands, to make that impact, but then also have a keen eye on efficiency as well. And, like I said, FEP increased year over year. And then this year we're starting to look into more, yes, we've done direct deals, but how do we do direct deals with programmatic guarantee, so that we can, with some of those bigger TV publishers and networks, figure out how to look at frequency across our different audiences, importing in our audiences from our DMP versus just, targeting and guaranteeing off of a demo base. So that's one thing that is really important to us this year to incorporate as we go into some of the upfront plans and that kind of season, which is upon us now, is to figure out how to incorporate those so that we can be set up for, success in the future. And, on paper, you'd look at the percentages of kind of, the tactics per se that I listed, and you'd still probably see linear as a large piece of it. But, based on our results and measurement and MMM, that is our biggest reach driver for driving awareness within our plans. But we want to start to help pull consumers through the funnel and reach them at different points, especially using video. And I'd say, we're starting, if you get lower into the funnel and some of those video tactics, I'd say the other pieces we use are, connected sometimes more to retail. We do a lot of content partner integrations that can show up in the form of video to really, integrate with our creative campaigns. I feel like I could go on and on, but those are some of the key pillars that I mentioned of our mass video strategy of how we're trying to drive reach and sufficiency across our plans where we have this big impactful media channel.
Are there certain brands that use these channels differently?
There are. I'd say our largest brands, Silk, as well as Oikos, Activia, Light and Fit, and International Delight. We look at linear TV from a somewhat similar mix from a day part standpoint, trying to get to sufficient GRP goals, obviously including FEP. And then from there, also our programmatic, as well as, including YouTube. And it just varies based off of, launches and seasonality and things of that nature. So we're trying to create more enterprise strategy across our largest investment to really, have that best in class approach and way into market, and then driving it down from there. I'd say yes, across the different brands, there are different ways in from a video standpoint, where some brands might have more, content integration or a partnership with a large publisher that we're partnering together to create that content on each other's behalfs, right? So using that kind of borrowed equity. And then we're, doing other, in-stream video, things of that nature with different types of partners as well too.
So I know we look at the broadcast linear space and traditional cable, just the traditional linear space in general, and benchmarks have definitely been well established for years and years now. But when you look at the digital video space, what benchmarks are you using to evaluate different partners or just the space in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, from a benchmark standpoint, of course, the linear TV is the, easy one from a reach and GRP perspective, of course. I'd say, obviously, when you get down to more of direct buys and even programmatic, of course, viewability is always a key metric, and how much does it cost for someone to actually view that. So I'd say those are kind of the, I'd say, main ones. We're working on something right now too, where you mentioned, we were talking about content before, where we're trying to incorporate, it's part of our evaluation and metrics of, how can our video content come to life with a certain partner, if we're doing those things with a publisher in video form to help, like I said, basically creative platform. How do we use that as a part of our rubric and metrics to evaluate them? And then how does the consumer engage with that, right? And so some engagement metrics off the back of that as well. So, we're measuring our digital video within what we do from a market mix modeling standpoint each year with some of our brands. So taking that, seeing where video fits in, and kind of, that's where the art and the science come together of your brand goals, and trying to really figure out, yes, it was proven in our MMM, but how do I continue to evolve and expand? We do different studies each year in terms of, understanding what's performing better, A/B testing, et cetera. So those are some of the key areas. Does that answer it mostly?
Yeah, and are you doing a lot of those, a lot of that testing and MMMs? Are you guys doing that in-house, or are you guys charging Wavemaker with those responsibilities?
We partner together, and we utilize analytic partners to help us with our MMM. So we're, partnering together to do that. And then campaign by campaign, I'd say it varies, based off of what we're doing. If we're using additional vendors to measure, a brand lift or sales lift or things of that nature based off of what we're putting into market. So I'd say it just varies. We have an in-house analytics team that we also partner with very closely, and along with the agency and other external partners, to develop learning agendas across every media touch point. But for here, we're talking more so about video, to really outline what is it that we want to learn. What are those big questions that we have, whether it be about certain channels, certain audiences, et cetera. So we do a lot of work in the beginning of the year to set that up. And then also, course correct and evolve throughout the year to understand really what's on the forefront, what do we have in market to help us answer some of those big questions around what's going to be driving the best growth for our brands.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about following the consumer, and that seems to be a big theme across the board. Another big theme with that comes reach incrementality. That seems to be a really big strategic pillar as folks are entering not just the upfront marketplace, but just really their day to day. So, like, what is your overall strategy to garner incremental reach?
Yeah, I'd say it's, adding the things that we've talked about from video standpoint, in terms of, yes, FEP, I think, helps us do that. Connected TV. We also look at, obviously other channels, but from a video standpoint, I'd say those are the main ones. And publisher direct deals where we know, where we are reaching a different audience. I'd say also too, from an audience perspective, we've tried to play around with some of those details as it relates to, I'd say all of our different, we call them activation communities. So, like, how do we, target them in different ways to drive incrementality as well. And then, I'd say from a video standpoint, it really is looking at CTV, YouTube, additional like publisher partners from a true video standpoint.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance, because there is a challenge in the broadcast, the linear space where you talked about it before. It's just the decline in supply. The reach curves are plateauing a lot sooner than they ever had before. So it is about figuring out how to allocate your dollars to find those eyeballs. That is definitely today's overarching challenge, and where to do it, because there are tons of places, and I'd argue reach, dual reach, right? There's multiple places where you could reach that consumer across different touch points. So that is an overall opportunity and a challenge for marketers out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we're trying to, diversify in our marketing mix and really, understand what are those key drivers across every brand and every channel. Doing a lot of work right now around, sufficiency. We get sometimes in a habit of, I can just put up, I'm making it up, but like a week, 2 weeks of TV and be like, is that really going to make a difference? Or, and what certain levels do I need to be at so that we're not only spending our money, but we're spending it smarter. And we can really, attribute sales and awareness and brand growth through our media channels. So I'd say that's another piece that we've taken a keen look at the past, I'd say, year plus, to really get those fundamentals and best practices in order for us and our organization, so that we have those guiding principles, so we can feel good about, the choices we're making, and not, just because I have $100,000 doesn't mean I need to spend it in, I'm making a week of like social. Could that be better spent in a, e-commerce, search campaign? I don't know, but, things like that to give us that rigor that we really are searching for within our media plan, so that we can, strive for excellence and growth.
So a lot of players out there. We've referenced the different ways, different tools, from linear to programmatic. But from your perspective, we look at leadership in innovation. Do you see a vendor or even a platform like doing it right, or maybe not? Maybe it's not even doing it right. Maybe it's a platform or vendor that has the roadmap to solving or taking a leading role in innovation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can answer it from a consumer perspective and then maybe a marketer perspective. Because as a consumer, if I'm, seeing the different, networks and content creation that's going on across the video world, I'm impressed, of course, by, the Amazons, the Netflix of the world. I'm impressed even with how, Disney and Discovery have taken their streaming platforms separately. As a consumer, I enjoy that, and I think that's where I go to get my content, in addition to what is happening on my network TV channel every night. So I think from that standpoint, it's there's so much to choose from that it's great. And I think that in itself is, just true innovation and creation, and figuring out different ways to monetize based off of where the consumer is. I think that is probably more to come in some of those platforms, especially Disney and Discovery, as those are kind of the Disney Plus specifically, those newer platforms. So, I think from that perspective of my, my own habits, I think that's really cool, because that's what I crave, and that's what they're delivering. I think that, so I don't know if I can name one, but I'd say of all of those, I think there's really good things happening across multiple, I'd say, TV networks, content creation, e-com advertising platforms, creating content, that, I think there's just more that we can obviously choose from, which also makes our jobs a lot harder. And understanding, really the overlap and how do I play within each of these to benefit my brands best. But I also think with a lot of this, especially like content creation with, Netflix and even some of these, Discovery, Disney, etc., that you can't just buy ads on. That is interesting to me. And I don't think something that we've really cracked the code on is how do I integrate within those when it's beyond just a 30, 15-second spot. And I think that's something that we've, have interest in and want to figure out. It's just also hard to, I think, have the lead time sometimes to do some of those more like valuable brand integrations and things like that. So, I'd say that's where my head is there. And I think it will only continue to get hopefully more exciting in terms of some of these platforms too, where you can be more focused on your, you can today in a lot of them, but more focused on your some specific message that you're sending the consumer. So that really like addressability, dynamic creative based on that end user.
Yeah, it's interesting from a consumer perspective. It ultimately just comes down to the UI, and the ease of use. Like, am I able to find my favorite show or a show that I need, or how is it a clunky experience? It really comes down to that.
Yeah.
Some have perfected it. I think some definitely have work to do. I'll register my complaint to them through their website. Without naming any names specifically.
I was going to ask you which one.
No. I will not disclose that. I do sell one of the players, so I don't want bad karma.
I hear you.
But nor do I expect any. But anyway, you just talked about addressable, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question, considering addressable is the bread and butter of how Dish Media sells their inventory or their pool of audiences. Where do you see addressable overall fitting into your media mix?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it has I think addressable to me has a spectrum, I guess like a few years ago, or even like 5 or 6, I was working on, addressable TV campaigns, right? Using the likes of Dish and other places when I was on the agency side to target that like household. And then now I think about it more in the aspect of what I would liken to what, dynamic creative, right? Or inserting into any media channel, not just TV, but that video experience where the message is personalized is kind of what that means to me now. So I'd say we are probably in the beginning stages of this. We've done some, dabbling in it as it relates to creating different dynamic content, all the way from search to, trying to do that on YouTube videos and things of that nature. So I'd say it's something that's definitely untapped for us and something we want to try and do more of because of, like we just talked about, how the delivery of what you want and what you expect. And really understanding that what creative or what even brands, I mean, gosh, I think if I take a step back and think about our portfolio and how much opportunity there could be, between, if I'm a Silk buyer, oh, did I know I had, Silk yogurt, or did I know I had, this other, if I'm not like, strict vegan, this other dairy product that might resonate with me. I feel like we have so much untapped, I'd say, opportunity to really kind of cross-sell and cross-pollinate across our branded portfolio and really understand kind of those levers But that's like way out there. For now, I think it's really within our programmatic channels, we have an ambition to deliver dynamic creative and really addressable creative based on our audiences. We've done a whole huge work stream the past year plus around, I know another hot topic is data and, cookies and all that kind of stuff. So we have worked tirelessly to get, a DMP, work with curating our own data, having less reliancy on third-party data, et cetera, to get us in that spot to where we can be eventually more addressable in our creative across the different channels that we're playing in. And I think within video, especially, just like the versioning and the different capabilities across so many partners that we can do is really an area we want and are trying to dive into this year for sure. So it's important, and I think it can help us too.
Yeah, I mean, you talked in the very beginning of that about personalization, and that is becoming such a big key. You think about different generations of shoppers. Millennial is such a hot topic, or it's been for the past 5 or 6 years or so. But I also think, I guess I have a couple of them in my house right now, Gen Z. How do you market to them? Because personalization plays such a key role in their lives. I mean, I guess I see it every evening, or when I go upstairs for lunch or a snack, I'll see it live. So just to twist it around a little bit, like, how do you see marketing to them, or you mentioned personalization, like, is there a next step to marketing to that next layer of consumer who will have purchasing power in the next, either now or next 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and something that, yes, we across multiple different brands, we're trying to even, age down to, not even all the way to there, but even millennial, right? So we're trying to figure out how to continue to do that. I think that you see that in some of our ads that are out there right now, especially if you think of, and if those of you who know the Activia brand, you probably remember Jamie Lee Curtis, if you're, my age plus, which is, I'm old. So if you, and that you can probably, is synonymous with like an older brand. So how do we take that and really kind of make it more modern, make it more enthusiastic, not only in how we're communicating from the creative standpoint, but where we're communicating. We have a similar challenge of what we're trying to do, and even I'd say too, with the products we're creating, right? That's another piece of it. It's how do you go to market with new innovations that are going to hit on those consumer needs, whether it be, gut health and immunity. That's really focused for the Activia brand. Obviously, coffee creamers is another one. International Delight is one of our largest brands, and typically coffee creamer and that type of product is for, I'd say, an old, like, call it like 45, 55-ish, right? Is kind of probably like the sweet spot. And how do we, same type of thing, like create products that are going to appeal to a younger, more health conscious generation, or licensing different products, like, with whether it be with candy bars or Fruity Pebbles or Elf, to kind of bring that more cultural, I'd say, aspect into some of our brands, from a product innovation standpoint, as well as where we're going and how to market and how we're reaching them. So we're trying to do that and understand that that's, a key focal point. And I'd say it's a combination of how, in terms of the messaging and how we're, reaching out to those points, but then also, like you mentioned in your touch points, and where we're reaching them, following the consumer. Like, not everybody's watching, NBC in their living room anymore from, the linear cable TV box. So how do I continue to expand and really kind of have those focused efforts to those audiences, because that's how we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, my Gen Zers don't even go to the set-top box. They go right to the
Yeah,
connected apps completely.
same.
So
I
yeah.
know. Unless there's sports, which we still have.
Yes, that does happen. Exactly. So I know we're getting close on the time, and I definitely want to touch on a couple other subjects because
Sure.
another big topic in 2021 is the end of the cookie. Right,
Mhm.
everybody's talking about this. It's a huge opportunity. Do you see it as a big opportunity for really for your brands overall to deepen your relationship with your consumers?
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, we've done a lot of work to try and set ourselves up for success. I mean, I think if you think about consumer packaged goods and especially like, our products, yes, we want to have our brands have a valuable connection with our consumers, but I don't think that, people are like signing up online to like, have to be, yes, maybe from a coupon standpoint, one-to-one communication with our brands from like a CRM standpoint. I don't think that's the biggest way in. I think it's more so having brands that resonate and speak to the needs of what the population wants and needs and stands for, and I think that is more of the communication and those different channels where we're communicating, how they can identify with what we're offering. I mean, we have amazing brands and amazing products, so I think that is really helps speak for itself to meet consumers' needs. And then giving that, I'd say, more emotional connection with some of the marketing that we're trying to do and create our manifesto brands is really important. And then I think, yes, from a data standpoint, we've tried to set ourselves up with identity links, understanding who our audiences are, creating those that are, utilizing sales data, and other data points that then are ours that we can then target off on and curate and understand more about them versus relying on the third party cookies, is definitely what we've tried to do. And we have put that into action this year across many touch points, but in video in particular, we actually looked at something started doing this in Q1 where we're, targeting off of the identity links versus third party cookies. And you can see much more increased performance for that. So it's, understanding who they are, how many times you're reaching them and start to curate that, retarget off of it, to really curate that relationship and know who you're reaching is super important. So I think, yeah, it's definitely a big opportunity to really understand more of who you're actually reaching versus, when you look up how you're third party cookied and how it's so different from who you really are. I think that's super, very, very valuable. And hopefully it'll continue down the path of us seeing more, increase in our results and actually, providing consumers advertising and products and information that they are desiring.
That's great. And then I guess I had one last question.
Yeah.
We have time. Going to measurement because we look at a holistic media campaign, and I said in the very beginning, measurement is very critical, plays a critical role in holistic video investment. Knowing that, like what would you press measurement companies on to make sure that they're effectively measuring your campaigns overall?
Yeah, I think that's a hard one. I think, I'd say I'd love to have that common denominator, right? Of like all the the different metrics. I'd say that is the holy grail where I'm not, measured TV on 18 plus and women 25-54 and over here for my, dairy avoiders, one of the activation communities we have. I'd say that is the biggest thing. I'd say another is how do I know who I'm reaching, how many times, like the frequency bit, and how are all of those things really driving sales and growth for my brands. The holy grail of the closed loop.
Certainly is, and I know there's multiple partners out there that are trying to tackle that. Whether it be Nielsen or ComScore or others in the scope of measurement. So I guess I have one last question I'll throw at you, because the theme of today was succeeding in a multi-screen world. What does it mean to you? And we definitely touched upon it, but just as closing, what does it mean to you on succeeding in a multi-screen world?
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, and the kind of the challenge that we're set out to do is, how do we go to market with that agnostic and holistic video strategy? And how do I know if I'm successful with that, by measurement and things that I'm putting into the marketplace, and or how do I really go to market with, say, one key partner and create that holistic video strategy across linear as well as FEP, programmatic, even other ways in, potentially beyond the video screen. So and reaching the most, our consumer in those points where we know they are. So that continued evolution.
Yeah, the evolution is key. Finding the commonality and one point, not one point of contact or one vendor, but a unified approach into the overall marketplace, I think is key, and interoperability is another piece of that too. So
yeah.
Well, thank you guys both so much. That was a great way to close out. I was listening along and Andrew kept being like, one more question, just one more. And I was glad that you did, because we want to get all the insights we can from both of you while you're here. But thank you both so much for closing out our live cast today. It was really such a treat to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
And thank you so much to everyone who tuned in.